EEKtober, everybody. We're doing 31 days of scary movies, and today is day 11. I am your host, Melissa Forziat. I'm a keynote speaker. When I speak, my topic is Take the Doughnut, which for me is another way to say carpe diem. That comes from a strange thing that happened to me in college where I left an actual donut on a table, and it became an object lesson for me in what it looks like to leave opportunities behind. So I don't want to do that anymore. I want to take the donut. Now, from time to time, I'll issue myself a take the donut challenge. If there's something I want to do or go after, I'll make it official. And it's a way to hold myself accountable. But this time, I'm opening up a take the donut challenge for anybody who wants to join. And here you are for 31 days of scary movies. So today, of course, is day 11. We're going to do a double feature day today. So this is the day we're talking about Paranormal Activity. That's what this video is for. It's from the year 2007. Okay, it premiered in 2007. It has a wider release in 2009. And depending on where you look, you might see either date in terms of when this was. So I said 2007 because that's when the original release was, or that's when the premiere was, I should say. This is going to fall into the found footage category, also supernatural. And we're going to double feature this film with Host, which I believe also meets those two categories as well. Now, this is directed and written by Oren Peli, and it stars Katie Featherston as Katie and Mika Sloat as Mika. If you liked this film, there's a lot more in this franchise, which is actually a really cool thing. So there's a Paranormal Activity 2, 3, 4, Paranormal Activity, the marked ones, the Ghost Dimension, and the Next of Kin. There's a lot in this franchise, which is exciting because Paranormal Activity really did a lot to advance the found footage subgenre. I guess some of the general notes that I want to share about this. First of all, if you're going to talk about found footage and horror films, I did not include the Blair Witch Project on my list. I don't think that's I was completely bored by that film. I was bored stiff by that film. I'm so sorry. There are people that I know who were so scared by it, and I went to see it, and it was so underwhelming to me, it didn't even make sense. I think this is not a type of horror that generally lands for me. I'm not necessarily scared by Paranormal Activity either, but I think the film is built better and is more suspenseful and helps it land better, even if this isn't the type of horror that normally works for you. So I just remember feeling with the Blair Witch Project, especially the first time I saw it, that it was like, I'm waiting the whole time for this. Like there was just a lot of nothing. And then when it was time to actually see stuff, it didn't feel like it went that far. And so I think with this, there's a real sense of escalation that's happening throughout the film. And that I do appreciate because we have somewhere to go. The other thing that I want to comment on here is, and I'm not even really sure how to phrase this. I think this is more of a question, and it doesn't just apply to this film, but it's a question that is spurred on by watching this film, because I think this film does this really well. So look, there's some films that you watch. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but is there ever a film that you watched where it feels like the performances are really unnatural and you can't decide why? Like there are even films with really strong actors who I know are good in other things, and then I'll go, but this doesn't feel, it doesn't feel right. And then I'll sort of go through a mental checklist and I'll be like, is it bad acting? I don't think it's bad acting. Is it something to do with the editing? Is it something to do with the sound design? Sometimes these things happen where I don't know what's not working about it, but it doesn't work. It feels like it's not real. Like it's not authentic. And as many films as I've watched, when that happens to me, I don't know why it is. I don't know what it was you could have fixed to make the whole thing work better. I don't even know that it's always like a bad script, because I think sometimes people can elevate writing by the performance. So I have a hard time putting my finger on that. And so the reason I'm bringing this up in this video is that this film for me is an example of like all of those things can be overcome. Like this is not a high production value film, and it feels very natural. The performances, I'm invested in the performances. I believe this couple. I believe what they're going through. I don't feel anything unnatural even about the little conversations that they have. I mean, of course, granted, this whole thing is about a supernatural concept. So I'm like, yes, there is a suspension of disbelief for the bigger picture of it. But in terms of performances and production value, like if there are times when I'm looking at these huge movies and thinking, why isn't this working? And then I look at a film like this and I think, this is working. Why is it working? I have a hard time reconciling. I'm curious if anybody is, in the film industry or really into films, and you have some thoughts on what it is I'm experiencing when that happens, let me know. But the reason I'm bringing it up, I don't mean to throw any shade at all on this film. It's very much the opposite. I'm so impressed with it. It's so bare bones, it's so lean, and it's very effective and feels rooted in something real between these people. And I believe the conversations they're having. So, I mean, I think it's so amazing. And this is for me like a way to sort of measure other things that aren't working up against it, to be like, well, does it do this? Does it do this? So, and all of that to say that I think, this couple, if you're going to watch this film and you're going to like this film, you have to be invested in this couple. And Katie and Mika, I think, are people that you want to get to know, that you feel like you're hanging out with for the film, and you kind of feel like you're going through it with them. So, just so good all around. And, having said all that, let's get into the film itself. We are actually going to start out with an intertitle. I had to look up the term for this because I've often wanted to find the term for this in film discussion groups and never did. So I think that what we're seeing here is intertitles where it says, Paramount Pictures would like to thank the families of Mika Sloat and Katie Featherston and the San Diego Police Department. You put a thing like that on screen to make people feel like this is really happening. It's meant, I think, to give us a much deeper sense, a bigger sense of the stakes of this film, to make us think it's real. And I do believe a lot of people probably thought this was real. So I can't imagine if you're Katie or Mika, who these are their names in real life, they probably had a lot of people reaching out to them concerned for their well-being after this film was released, which would be such a cool outcome and probably really annoying after a while. But anyway, so you put a thing like this on screen to sort of, really root it. And hey, this is serious. This could happen to anybody. And this is the couple that we're going to meet here. And so we start there. And in comparison, the strangers used a few different devices as well to frame their movie. And as I love the film, I don't think I needed all of the devices that they used. And one of them was intertitles. So I think, that was another movie that did its best to sort of say to you, okay, this scary movie is not up here. It's in here. It's you. It's me. It could be any of us. And so I think that's what they accomplished there. Now, we're going to see that there's a video camera test that's happening here. Mika has bought a new video camera, unbeknownst to Katie. He's getting things set up. He's panning around the house. We're going to get intertitles. Really important stuff here with dates and times are going to be on the screen for so much of this. So it's San Diego, California, September 18th, 2006. So I believe by the end of the film, we're looking at under a month for like the real time that this is meant to take. So a car is going to pull into the driveway. Katie just got home and she sees this video camera and she's like, oh my goodness, what a contraption. I thought you were going to get something smaller. Like, what are you doing? She keeps asking how much the toy cost. And he's like, well, we're just going to have an interesting time capturing whatever paranormal phenomena is occurring or not occurring. So we know straight away that this was bought for a very specific purpose. I mean, we know that from the title as well, but he says it right into the camera to begin with, like, This is for his interest, but it's also with a broader intention. Mika is going to be making dinner. He's sharing his plan. Like I'm just going to film whatever happens just for posterity. And when we know what's really going on, we can react appropriately. So this is clearly the product of conversation that's been happening before the movie starts, right? Like something's been going on, and Mika wants to get into the bottom of it. But Katie is more reluctant. He's like, maybe it's the neighbor's kids. Just by suggesting that, we know that he's not really believing Katie yet. She's like, yeah, can't be, because this has been happening since I was 8. So we're getting a lot of really important context here. And I think it's exposition, but I like how they're doing it, because it's, through Mika sort of not believing, and she's having to sort of disprove him. So to say this has been happening since she was 8, this has been following her whole life. But why is it that they're not getting a video camera until just now? That's a question that you have to ask yourself. So Mika wants to set up the camera in the bedroom. He's just sort of feeling it out. He's going to test the waters with her and this whole camera setup. She's generally resistant to most of the ideas that he brings forward, but eventually warms up to most of them over time. So he's all ready to go. The camera equipment's set up. He's like, okay, so what do we have to do to make the paranormal stuff happen? She's like, we're not doing that. I don't want to force this. Like, that's a dangerous game. We're not playing it. And we can get a sense that he doesn't totally believe her, and she knows that he doesn't totally believe her. He's joking about the stuff that's happening for so much of the film, and only as it escalates does he start to get more serious. And in fact, I think, as annoying as that can be, it's an important character to have in this film, because if you come in not believing it as a viewer, and then you start to see Mika turn, I think that's where you start to also go, oh, wait, okay, so now if he's nervous, if he's scared, this is a lot. This is real stuff. So the first day they've got this camera, she's knitting, he's playing guitar, they're going to stop and listen to something. What's happening? It's okay. They inspect a little bit. Turns out it's just the ice maker. Okay, well, no weird stuff going on here yet. And then, of course, they're still keeping it light, and he's like, hey, maybe you could do a little strip tease. Maybe we could do some extracurricular stuff with this camera. How about that? If we can't get the supernatural stuff to happen, maybe we can make something else happen. She's just like, I do not consent, and the camera's annoying. So we're going to see that he sets up the camera stand in the bedroom. They're sort of deciding what the placement should be. She is just getting used to the idea that it's going to be on them while they're sleeping. And then we're going to see a timestamp that runs at the bottom, which will be really handy for us. And then we're going to see night 1. We're going to see the title card, the card that says Night 1, the inner title. And it's September 18th, 2006. 11:24 p.m. Katie is so self-conscious about this, and we're going to fade to 2:08 a.m. Sometimes they fade to that moment. Sometimes they're going to fast forward, speed up to that moment. And I think when they're speeding up, it's sort of meant to give you an impression that Mika's going back and looking at the footage. So they are going to sleep at this point. They're asleep, and we're going to hear, it's just light at this point. There's like a slightly, like a gong-like or a banging sound. And then more importantly, there's one metallic clanging sound. They don't wake up to that. The next morning, Katie's fixing breakfast. She calls to Mika. She's like, did you drop the keys on the floor? They're in the middle of the floor. He's like, nope, didn't do it. She's like, they're normally over here. They're over here now. And Mika jokes, is like, well, this is incontrovertible evidence that evil forces came from beyond the grave to move your keys. They laugh because it's still funny for now. It's unsettling for her because this is not new for her, but he's able to make light of it. We're going to get a little downtime with them. He's in the pool. She's sitting poolside. She's going to talk to the camera and say that a psychic is coming. He's not on board with bringing other people in. Mika's got an ego. Mika's ego might be a problem for them long term. Like, would everything that happens in this film still happen for them if they brought the psychic in earlier and they got a hold of the doctor before he went on vacation or went away? I don't know. I mean, you can argue, right? Who's to say? But so he's resisting the idea of bringing in somebody else. And she's like, no, but we're doing it anyway. I already called the guy. So Dr. Fredericks is going to come in. He's going to sit with Katie and Mika in the living room, and he's just sort of interviewing her and getting a sense of it. He's learning a bit about them as a couple. He's learning a bit about her situation. He has sort of like layers of types of questions he's asking. We find out that they've been together 3 years, that they're not engaged yet, but he's like engaged to be engaged. She's a student. She's an English major. He's a day trader. So he works, probably works from home based on what we're seeing in this film. They're in good health, except for all the weird stuff that's happening. And he's like, look, you know what? A lot of times there are perfectly reasonable explanations for weird noises in your house. See if it's that. But then he's going to start taking notes on Katie's situation. And she's had these haunting experiences since she was 8. She shared a room with her younger sister, Christy. She says they both experienced it. The stuff that was happening to Katie, but Christy saw it too. And specifically, there would be at night when she was trying to sleep, there would be a mass or a shadowy figure at the foot of her bed, and she would feel it breathing on her. Both of the girls saw it. They were both terrified, and then it would go away. It would just stop. So she said it happened in the first house that they lived in, and then there was a fire, and they were fine, but they had to move. And he's like, so what caused the fire? She's like, I don't know. I wonder. I'm not saying anything about what it's connected to. I'm just saying we don't know, and we tried to look. So from 13 on to however old she is right now, it's been happening periodically. And then she said over the past few weeks, it started again. Dr. Fredericks was like, well, it sounds like it was connected to you. Now, for those of you who listened to my poltergeist recap, they go into some detail and some exposition in that film trying to explain the difference between different types of entities and what could be, is it a haunting? Is it a poltergeist? They have some differences they share there. We're not going to use the word poltergeist here, but we've got some terms. You need to kind of understand the world that we're living in. We need to define some things so that we're all on the same page. So Dr. Fredericks is saying, well, it sounds like it's connected to you. It's not a haunting of the house. So what that tells us is it's not going to be solved by them just leaving. That, Katie's going to have to resolve whatever's happening with her. So they walk him around the house and they're showing him where the activity has been: flickering lights, kitchen faucets turning on and off, banging and scratching sounds down walls. Most of the activity in the bedroom, they get some whispering. Sometimes it calls her name. He's like, calls your name? She's like, it does. Mika has heard a little bit of this, but not much, to be honest. And again, we don't really know how much he believes this situation. And then Mika's going to show Dr. Fredericks the whole camera setup. He's going to explain what he's been capturing. Dr. Fredericks has seen enough. He's like, yeah, so here's the thing. Hauntings feed off negative energy. So if you want to bring them, that's be negative, but don't do that. So again, Mika's going to joke like, well, then we better not let your mother come over. I mean, just like taking the piss out of everything, really. So Dr. Fredericks is going to set some pretty firm boundaries here. He says, okay, here's the deal. My expertise is in ghosts. Demons are a totally different thing altogether. It's an entity related to something non-human. It is not a person. It is not a ghost, which is my specialty. So you're going to need to talk to somebody who knows about demons, because that's not me. Yeah, I think that's probably what's happening here. Frankly, this thing is probably going to keep following you. It'll probably try to communicate with you. I think you should talk to somebody who actually does know about this area. So he gives the name of another doctor, Dr. Avery's. It's a demonologist in Los Angeles. Okay, new term for me. So he wants out. This is not his deal. He's sensing something in the house and he's hearing some things from Katie that put this in a different category. So Mika's like, well, okay, here's an idea. Just spitballing here. Why don't we just get a Ouija board and find out what it wants and give it that? And Dr. Fredericks is like, yeah, because it probably wants Katie. And that seems to be a compelling enough reason not for Mika not to continue to push that matter. The doctor's like, if you try to communicate with it, it's going to think you're opening the door to it. That's bad, right? You get that? It's bad. Nod your head with me, Mika. Serious stuff. Mika's like, so as the doctor is leaving, he says, call the other doctor tomorrow. Do it. And she wants to, but Mika doesn't. Again, Mika's ego is getting involved here. He wants to be the big, strong man and protect her from the demon or the ghost. And he's like, look, if you call, it's probably just going to get worse. Okay. But she says, well, if it gets worse, then I'll call. So we're going to get nighttime footage here. Mika's setting up the camera next to the bed. They shut it off so they can get freaky, have some sex, and then they turn the camera back on. And now we get night 3, September 20th, 12:31 a.m. That's one of the last times they'll be affectionate, by the way. As much as it takes a while before Mika really gets with the program, the fact that their sex drive goes down, and so does, it seems like his pretty early, suggests he is getting more serious about this over time. Okay, so night 3, September 20th, we're going to start at 12:31 a.m. They're going to go to bed and we're going to get a time lapse until 2:09 a.m. where we're going to get the creak of a door handle. The door's going to shut just a little bit. It's going to open just a little bit, not much, very subtle. But it's a thing. One of the great things about this film is the subtleties of it. This is a film that asks you to watch it closely. It begs you to not be doing something else at the same time, because you're going to miss stuff like this. And sure, if you're doing something else at the same time watching this, when you get to the end, you're not going to miss the big stuff. But what makes this film work is that they've been building it. So we're going to start with the little shutting and opening of the door. And by really focusing in on watching this, it helps you to be more invested. It helps you to feel more of the tension that's building. So here, just a little bit of a thing, weird, but it's not the end of the world. So 6:14 a.m., the alarm wakes them up. Mika's checking the footage and he shows Katie the door. He's like, whoa, did you check this out? This is weird. So they can agree on that. Now we're going to get a little bit of a fake out here. Mika's playing the guitar during the day. Katie screams. He runs to get the camera. That's his first instinct. And it's a spider. So yeah, he brings it outside. Spider demon taken care of. He is going to start, at this point, he's going to start sort of messing with the ghost or the demon. He's like, whoever you are, like, what was the point of moving this door? Seriously, like, this is what were you doing? So he's beginning to communicate with it. And I think, if Katie heard any of this, she'd be pretty angry about it. So now Mika is doing some more research. I mean, he's seen the door thing. It gave him some pause. So he's bought himself a book. He's reading about whether this might be a ghost or a demon. Katie's like, look, it doesn't feel human to me. It feels like a monster that wants to hurt me. He's like, well, that's bad. Yeah. He reads more. He says, well, demons are malevolent evil spirits. They can stalk people for decades. He says, it's cool we got it on tape, that bit with the door. But it's okay. We'll take care of it. She's like, it's cool, not cool, not at all. She's like, this is new to you, but this isn't new to me. I'm taking it very seriously. It feels dangerous. I don't want to make this thing mad. Please don't make it mad. You're right on the edge of making it mad at every moment, every single thing you do. He says, okay, here's the thing. you didn't warn me about this, so it is, I think I have some say in this process. Ooh, core fight. This is a really big fight. And actually, as he gets into this position a little bit more, Katie probably should have told him. She's like, what am I supposed to do on the first date? Be like, I'm being followed by an evil spirit. And he was like, no, maybe not the first date, but maybe the 15th or the 30th. Like, at the point when I can say that we're engaged to be engaged, I probably should have already known about this thing. Like, hey, even maybe before we moved in together, that might have been good news to share with me. So it's a really good point, because as much as he's like taking this, Mika is too flippant for me for most of this movie. If I were Katie, I'd be sending him out the door. But the point that he raises is a really good one, and something that he could have very hard feelings about for the entirety of this film. So, he raises it once, and that is helpful to me as a viewer. Okay, so they're going to lock up for the night. They're going to turn the alarm on because that's going to help. And then we're going to get the night 5 intertitle, September 22nd, 2:54 a.m. They're sleeping. There's a bit of a bass sound. I don't really know how to describe. A lot of times before some sort of activity happens, the first thing you're going to hear is sort of like a deep bass, very low, very quiet sound to sort of introduce that something's happening. And then you'll hear or see something more violent. So we get that sound. Katie's going to wake up gasping. It's from a nightmare. And then as he wakes up and starting to comfort her, they hear a loud bang downstairs. He takes the camera down. They can't find the source. They can't find it anywhere, but it was really loud. So they're going to go back to bed at 2:58, and they're kind of holding each other. That was louder. That was more than a door slightly closing and slightly opening. They don't even really know what it was. The next day, they're exhausted. They're creeped out. It's like, what was it? Was the thing like lifting a couch and dropping it? They can't see any evidence of what happened. Katie's friend is going to come over to hang out. He's going to show both Katie and the friend the recording from last night. He caught a little bit of whispering, can't make out any words. He's like, I want to get a Ouija board. Katie and the friend are like, hard pass. Absolutely not. That is a no-fly zone. Okay. They don't want to invite this thing in. So instead of that, Mika's going to verbally challenge the demon. He's like, what you got? What you got? You got loud banging things? Your demon's worthless, Katie. Yeah, I mean, why is this thing escalating right now? Probably because Mika. And I don't think it's because of Mika's attitude right now. I think it's because of Mika's very existence. I think that the demon has a sense that she's engaged to be engaged, and it wants her, and that he doesn't want Mika involved at all. So I do think Mika's the reason why this is escalating right now. I don't think it helps that Mika's ego is involved now. And he's throwing down the gauntlet to a demon. Guys, come on. So all right, we're at night 13, September 30th. It's 3:13 a.m. and they're sleeping. A thud wakes up Katie from downstairs. She's going to look to the door, and then they're going to hear a roar and another loud thud. Katie is like hyperventilating now. Things are getting louder. We're going to go downstairs. We're going to see the chandelier swinging, but that's pretty much it. Again, it's like, what are these thuds that they're hearing? They're going to go back upstairs. They hear some footsteps downstairs, or it sounds something like that. They're going to go back to bed, but they're hearing more footsteps, and so now they're pretty alert. The next morning, Katie's like, we really shouldn't be messing with this. This is getting worse and worse. Maybe no more camera. He's like, that's really not an option with all this cool stuff happening. She's like, really, it's not cool stuff. Like, none of this stuff was not happening before this camera. Okay, that's not true. We know he got the camera for a reason, because it has been starting like a few weeks before they got the camera. So, she's feeling sensitive to it, but she wants she wants to have some control over finding a way to be able to make this stop. And this is something she can cling on to at this moment. Okay, so Mika is going to do something that Katie would hate. He's going to do an EVP experiment. electronic voice phenomenon. He's got a microphone. He is interviewing the demon, like Interview with the Vampire, except interview with a demon who doesn't seem to talk back to you. So he's asking questions like, anyone here? Where did you come from? Do you have something to say? Favorite quest? Would it be better to talk through a Ouija board? Favorite color? He listens back to the audio later because we didn't actually hear any responses to that. But when he listens back, we see a little blip in the audio after the would it be better to talk through a Ouija board question, and you see a little grunt blip. He's going to listen to that a few times. So the Ouija board is exactly what this thing wants, and you know Mika wants to do it, and you know Katie does not. So night 15, October 2nd. It's 1:35 a.m. They're asleep. She sits up and she's going to sleepwalk. She looks at Mika for 2 hours and then goes downstairs. And now he's going to go looking for her in the middle of the night. He's got his camera. He goes downstairs. He's shouting around to different rooms. And finally, he finds her outside on the swing. She's like delirious. She's in a haze, in a daze. She's awake. She looks like it's outside and it's cold, but she doesn't seem to be reacting to that at all. He asks her to come inside and she's like, nope, don't want to go in. So he's going to go inside himself. He's going to hear a loud thud upstairs. He calls to her, enough's enough, come inside. He goes upstairs. The TV is on to static because once again, we need to bring that poltergeist feeling into the film. So he's telling the demon, whoever it is, to come out. He turns the camera around and, ooh, jump scare. It's Katie right in front of him. But now she's actually awake. And this is all she remembers. She doesn't remember anything about what happened during the night. She doesn't remember being outside. She just remembers waking up when she was at the foot of the door and the camera was on her. So the next day he shows her the footage. She's like, I don't remember any of that. So now the question becomes like, any chance this actually was happening to you earlier in your life? Katie is reflecting on this the next day. She's like, well, I did used to have nightmares. He's like, okay, look, we're going to stay strong. But seriously, like I'm not for bringing in an exorcist. I think that's going to make it worse. So it could be that he's taking it more seriously now, but it also feels like he just wants to fix this himself. He wants to be the big, strong man of the house, and he doesn't want an outsider to come in, which is not entirely unlike the demon, okay, if we're being honest. But anyway, that's a whole level of analysis that we're not even getting into right now. But I mean, whose property is Katie in this film? Okay, so we're going to go at 7:33 p.m. Mika got a Ouija board, and you're thinking to yourself, did she cave? Is she okay with this now? No, she is not. She's prepping for a date they're supposed to go on. She comes down. He's like, 10 minutes, let's use this thing. She's like, you did not. She's legit angry. This was over the line. She refuses. She's very angry. She's going to leave. He leaves it on the table. After they leave, we're going to hear footsteps. We're going to see wind inside the living room. And the planchette of the Ouija board starts to move and spell something that we can't quite see. And then the board lights on fire. And then we're going to hear the footsteps go away. So several hours later, almost 4 hours later, Mika and Katie return. And Mika is like holding the Ouija board, all confused about it. She's like, she can't even talk to it. She can't even acknowledge the Ouija board. There's a star drawn onto the board now, which is of great concern. And Katie doesn't care. She doesn't want to know. She's going to slam the door. She won't even let him come into the bedroom. She wants alone time. And then later in the day, she's still really pissed. He's like, what do I need to do? She says, you're going to turn off the camera, and they're going to have a chat. They're going to work things out. They're going to set some rules. They make up enough. At 1:25 a.m., he turns the camera back on because the movie can't end there, right? So he gets in front of the camera. He says he swears to abide by Katie's rules and regulations of camera use and not offend this entity. And I promise not to betray Katie's trust. She's making him say all this. He's very reluctant, but I think whatever conversation just went down made him feel a little more serious about the situation. Like, come on, man. So anybody can see this is getting worse. Okay. So at 1:42 a.m., Mika's going to come in. He's going to say, so they're in bed, and he's like, he just wants to float this. He's like, so I did see the tape. Do you want to know what happened with the Ouija board? She's like, no. What would make you think I want to know what happened with the Ouija board? So the next day, he's documenting things because whatever he saw got him thinking. He's been reading, he's been researching. He's like, I found some things and I want your help to figure them out. She's like, no. She looks very reluctant. He's like, no, but seriously, I really want your help with this. She's like, fine. So she sits down to humor him, and he's like, all right, things spelled something, and I'm trying to make out what the letters can mean, what they might be saying. Did you ever know somebody named Dina or Diane or maybe Nadine? She says, no, I did not. She's like, and that is enough about the Ouija board. I want it out of the house now. Like, I don't even want it here at all. So Katie and her friend are now chatting. She's unloading about the whole thing to her friend. Mika's like, but I've got a plan though. You want to hear it? They don't really want to hear it, but the plan is he's going to do a little experiment with some powder. He wants to see if something's leaving footsteps. She's like, how does this help anything? We know that there's something here. How does that stop it? So he's like, no. She says, all right, how about this? Compromise. I let you do the powder experiment. And then when that doesn't help us, I bring in this doctor, the second doctor that was recommended by the first doctor, the guy who's the demonologist. He very reluctantly agrees. I think this was a good move on her part. So we're going to see him run this test. He spreads powder at the foot of the stairs, the foot of the bedroom door, and sort of like where the bedroom meets the hallway. And this should give him a sense of what's going on. Mika's like, I'm taking care of this. Don't you worry. She's like, I don't think this takes care of anything. He's like, have some faith. Don't hurt his fragile ego. Night 17, October 4th, 12:14 a.m. They're going to sleep. We're going to get a time lapse to 3:15 a.m. where we hear footsteps. They're going to wake up. He grabs the camera, and he's going to see that powdery footsteps are now going into the bedroom, but not out. So something is in there with them right now. It looks like a claw, like a three-pronged claw on the ground. It seems to have started in the hallway in the closet area, and then they look in the attic, in the ceiling, there's a tile that's been lifted. So he's going to go up there. He's going to check it out, despite Katie saying, don't do it. He's going to look around. He's going to see there's something weird at the end of the attic. He grabs it, he retrieves it, and it is a picture from Katie's house that burned down. And he brings it back to her, and she's stunned. This was directly over their bed, but on the upper level in the crawl space. She's like, there's no way this even exists. I haven't seen this thing for 15 years. So this rattles her. She's crying. She's in bed. She's looking at this picture. He's like, I'm going to clean the powder. And the next day, they're so exhausted. We're going to cut to Mika watching the footage. He's watching as the footsteps are being created. Katie says, okay, experiment done. I'm calling Dr. Avery's, the demonologist. He's just like, you are not in control. It is in control. None of what you're doing has helped in any material way. Like anything that you're doing, it's playing into it because it wants to. So like what you're doing isn't helping at all. So she's going to call Dr. Avery's, and here's the really bad news. He's gone. He's out. She's going to call Dr. Fredericks because she's desperate. He's going to come back tomorrow. So they have to make it through a night. Even though I think Dr. Fredericks was fairly clear about his position the last time he was there. But so night 18, they have to get through this night. It's October 5th, 3:53 a.m. They're sleeping. We're going to see a light turn on downstairs. We're going to get those footsteps, loud footsteps. We're going to get the light turning off. The bedroom door slams. There's banging outside their door. It's so loud, it scares them. Mika goes to open it. He's going to check out into the hallway, and the door is going to slam with Katie inside the bedroom. Nice job, demon. Way to distract Mika and get Katie alone. The banging is going to still be on the door. He goes into the bedroom, and she's scared. Like, after he leaves and it basically slams the door back, so she's inside alone, he finally breaks in, and he is like the only one who wants to be in this bedroom now. She is out. She says, absolutely not. We're sleeping downstairs. She begs him. He's like, I don't see what difference that would make. Now, it probably would be a thing that I would try if I were her, because, and it's just the coincidence of the fact that she's been sleeping upstairs all this time, but the activity happens at night, and it's been mostly happening on the second floor. Granted, I know it's probably going to follow her downstairs too, but I would give it a shot if it were me. So she says, like, well, let's sleep downstairs. But they're downstairs, and now something creaks down there, so they try upstairs, but she doesn't spend the whole night up there. She can't tolerate it. They're sitting like on the far edge of the bed, away from the door, when we sort of break for the night. The next day, we see her on the living room couch. She eventually moved down to the couch. She's tired. She's scared. She's not sleeping. She's like, we can't be in our house anymore. We can't do this. He's going to comfort her. He doesn't agree to that, but he's going to try to comfort her. So they are eating in silence during the day, and they hear a huge bang upstairs. And it's like, what? During the day now this is happening? They go to check it, and they find that a picture of their faces in the hallway is cracked, but only over his face. I think the demon has a message here for Mika, doesn't he? Okay. So she can feel his presence. She can feel this thing near her, and then we see her hair moves because it's breathing on her, and she runs. This stuff hasn't happened during the day before. This is getting really bad now, So we're waiting for Dr. Fredericks to arrive. We're tense. Katie's tense. He comes in. He's like, oh yeah, you didn't get a hold of Dr. Avery's because he's gone. It's going to be a few days before he's back. And bad news, I'm not doing this. Like, he took one step inside. He's like, this is overpowering. Like, this is a lot. This has gotten way worse. And it definitely doesn't like that I'm here. I need to leave immediately. Like, I get that I can't be here. This is making things worse. He's like, I told you before, I don't want to do this. And I'm telling you again, like, it's not even good for you that I'm here. Katie's desperate. He's like, look, Dr. Avery's is going to be back in a few days. And she's like, well, we could leave. He's like, leaving's not going to help. She's like, but... And then he's like, but I have to leave right now. You stay. I'm going to go all the way over there. So Dr. Fredericks is going to leave. Katie just starts crying in bed, and now Mika's going to console her, because she's at the end of her rope. They're both exhausted. And, like, this is getting to be a lot. 19, October 6th. 1:33 p.m. They're asleep, and there's a light knocking sound, and then something bubbles under the sheet to sleep next to Katie. 3:04 a.m. There's going to be a light that goes on in the hallway, and a knocking sound. And there's going to be a light that goes off, and then a shadow on the door. First time we've been seeing playing with shadows, I think. So now there's this shadowy figure on the door, and Katie's going to wake up breathless. She felt him breathing. He's right there. Mika's going to go to it. He's going to sit next to her. She's like, don't you feel it? Like, it's still here. There's something wrong. Like, this is it. It's with her now. It slept next to her. And I do wonder, like, what else it did. Like, did it in some way tag her or mark her or claim her? I don't think it does until a little bit later, but she feels that there's something different here. So, he's going to give her a hug. The next day, she is wide awake and she feels it watching her. Like it's during the day. She can't escape this thing. She's like, we have to do something. He's like, I'm going to do some research. This is a real turn for Mika because he is at a complete loss. For the first time, he's not joking about the situation. He's not saying I can handle this. There's not even somebody else to go to right now to get the help. He's like, I'll do some research, but you can hear in his voice that he doesn't think there's research that he can do to help. They're going to watch the footage from the tape from the night before. They're going to see it all. Katie is looking at his computer. Mika did some research and he found a website that was chronicling stories like these. He found a story about a woman named Diane that basically exactly matches Katie's experience. Basically, like the same thing happened to her in the 60s. It started when she was 8. There was a house fire. Katie perks up. She goes over. She starts reading about it. And plus, Diane is one of the names that could have been spelled out on the Ouija board earlier. So a lot of things are checking out. He says, I can't find a connection between you two, though. So I don't know why it would have transferred from her to you. But these things are often random, it seems. So, like, maybe it doesn't need a reason. But he's like, I think this thing was telling you, like, warning you not to mess with it, like, not to try to exercise it, because that's what Diane did way back when, and it ended very badly for her. So he's like, I think here's what I think. It's gone away on its own before, and maybe we need to hope for that outcome. It's not worth the risk to do an exorcism. So his advice here seems to be coming from a different place. Like, it's not like I'm going to fix it. It's like nobody should try to fix it because that's going to make this thing mad. Mika has a new idea that he wants to share with her. She's like, I don't care about your new ideas. Your camera and you are the problem. All right. Stop it with the camera. He's like, I'm trying to solve this problem that you brought into this house. Ooh. I mean, it's bound to happen that they'd be getting angry with each other. Like, this is a very high stress situation and neither of them are sleeping very well. So, if at all. So, we then find Katie sobbing on the floor and he's going to comfort her. It's okay. It's not your fault. This is the compassion we know and love from these two. Okay. And to be fair though, what she said is actually right. Like him and his camera are the problem, because if not for him, I don't think the demon would be flaring up like this, because it wants her and it doesn't want to compete with him. So I don't know if there was any way to avoid this situation. Night 20, October 7th, 4:31 a.m. They're sleeping. A shadow over the door comes in again, and Katie is physically pulled out of bed by a leg. She drops down onto the floor, and then it pulls her out backwards by her legs, all the way down the hallway. She's screaming, blood-curdling screams for Mika, and Mika runs out after her and battles the demon, gets her, retrieves her, and they go back into the bedroom together. And the next day, Katie's like, I want to go. I want to go. That's it. I want to go. He is like, yeah, let's go to a hotel. Like, he's got nothing else to, there are no arguments to this. That was bad. That was objectively bad. He says, can I just get a shot of your back? They get the camera on your back. She's like, yeah, she does. She lifts up the back of her shirt and there's a bite mark there. Now this is the point of no return, I would say. I'm not sure whatever happened in the bed the night before was the point of no return, but this certainly is. So there's some sort of like slow acting venom in this bite, perhaps. So initially she's like, I want to get out of here. But then later in the day, Mika's ready to go. He's ready to get her out to a hotel. And now she's exhausted. She's sitting on the floor. She's not interested to move. She's clutching a cross that's cut her hand. She's been holding it so tight, but she looks completely dazed. And he's like, he tries to lift her and get her to another place. We're going to see in the living room, he lights a fire. He's going to burn the cross. Katie is because I don't know, maybe she tried to exercise herself at this point. Katie is now in bed and she says, I don't want to go. And she's very calm now. She's no longer afraid. She's delirious. She's like, would you stay with me? It's better if we stay, please. Because like I do don't we both want to go. Like that's what we decided on. She says, no, no, no. I think it's better if we stay. I think we'll be okay now. And he agrees, he leaves, and she smiles. Uh-oh. This doesn't look like Katie anymore. This definitely does not look like Katie. And whatever it is that's been bothering her has now completely possessed her, I would say. It's lying to Mika because it wants to kill him. So this is the only way to make that happen. They can't leave. So night 21, October 8th, 1:27 a.m. They go to sleep. Katie sits up straight in bed. She takes the sheet off of herself. She stands up. She turns and looks at Mika. She is going to go around to his side of the bed and stand over him ominously for a couple of hours. She's going to go out the door, and then we're going to hear screams from downstairs, loud, blood-curdling screams. He runs down to go to her. He screams. We're going to get a loud thud, and the camera is just going to linger. We're just going to hold for a good long time on this bedroom, not knowing what just happened downstairs. And then we're going to hear heavy footsteps that we've heard before from the demon. We're waiting for this thing. So many loud footsteps. We're waiting for this thing to get to the top of the stairs so that we can see it. But the first thing that we see, jump scare, Mika is thrown full force into the camera, knocking it over. And Katie is now he's lifeless. Katie is standing in the doorway in a blood-soaked shirt. She's the one that threw him. She crawls to him like a beast. She smells him. Oh, he's dead. She's going to come over to the camera, crawling. She's going to smile into the camera with these long teeth. And then we're going to get a real close-up as she approaches the camera. And then we're going to get the one more inner title, the closing title, really. It's this, Mika's body was discovered by police on October 11th. Katie's whereabouts remain unknown. So, we're meant to think that this is real reporting. It's a documentary. It's telling us nothing but the facts. And this is the real footage. This is the idea of like, as much as the topic may feel unbelievable, this is a totally real story. So you should believe it. And it has been authenticated. And yeah, I just think it's so good. Look, I like it. Is it something I find really scary? I don't know, because I'm desensitized to horror films, but is it a good film? Absolutely. And do I think it's effective in the way it builds tension? It sure is. I like how it's done. I like, and I think this is a film like Blair Witch Project came out, and it's not like you see one sequel after another that came out on the back of that. Paranormal Activity came out, and it's got so many films in this franchise now. And I think it really, and now there's a lot more stuff that gives you that found footage quality. And I think it was the right timing for this too, because we started to get into a world where you were seeing more movies and TV shows that weren't horror, that were integrating text on screens, phone messages, like things that were written on screens. And so this plays in really well with that. And I think it was the right time for a thing like this to be discovered and to be introduced to us. Blair Witch Project might have been a little too early. I think people remember it. Absolutely. And people talk about that film as a good horror film. But in terms of like the longevity and the ability to build out a franchise around it, I don't know if you're going to see as much of that with that film. It might have just been a little early. And maybe this one was coming in at just the right time. And so they built out a whole world around it. And plus, they to leave it with, this thing is now inside Katie and Katie's MIA, and we've also set up that, because even if that didn't happen, we've also set up that this demon can jump from one person to another. So that's an element as well that they could potentially play with. So I mean, look, that's what I thought about Paranormal Activity. What did you think? Please feel free to leave your comments in one of the comments on this video. And also, here's my request to you, because I've already said, like, I'm desensitized to horror films. So I never really know how scary they actually are. My scary meter is busted. So I would love it if you used your scary meter and rated this one on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of how scary Paranormal Activity actually is to you. 1 being that wasn't scary, 10 being this was the scariest thing I've ever seen, and anywhere in between. So I'd love to get your thoughts on that. And let's see where we land as a group. If anybody is looking to make recommendations, it may be helpful for them to see the aggregate over time. And so next time, it's going to be, first of all, I'm going to say today, because this is a double feature, the second movie in our double feature today is another found footage, another supernatural film called Host from 2020. I actually am going to say found footage. It's sort of like a Zoom horror. And being from 2020, like it's a certain time and place to make Zoom horror make sense. So that's the other one in this double feature. And next day after this will be day 12, where we'll watch the Amityville Horror from 1979. That's a classic haunted house film. So kind of building things out from what we were watching today. We'll do a little bit more of that tomorrow. So yeah, that's what's on tap for us. I hope you'll join me again. Happy EEKtober, everybody. Get spooky, get donuts.